Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Alchemy Online yoga class with Jody this morning. I was thinking on the weekend how this year, more than any other year that I can think of, there's been more and more bike riders out around Cochrane, where we live. And I myself was riding my bike on the weekend, and I thought it might be nice to teach a class to help us release tension in the head, neck, and shoulders and the wrists from holding on to handlebars, and then get into the hips a little bit. So this class won't be super flowy in a Vinyasa kind of a way, but we'll kind of break down the parts of the body that might be a little bit tight from riding bikes or even running, if you've been out doing more of that this season. But yeah, I've noticed lots and lots of bikes going around. Kyle's been tuning bikes like crazy in the yoga studio this season as we're closed down due to COVID. So yeah, let's unwind some things that might have gotten tight from riding bikes. So for this class, if you do have a block at home, that's awesome. If you don't, no big deal. But a couch cushion or something, actually a pillow would be perfect, because we're going to do a pose later where we're going to support the neck. So find a comfortable seat for yourself. You can sit on something. You can sit on a rolled up towel, blanket, a cushion or something, just to elevate the hips a little bit. So let's just drop in so that we can get into the breath body here this morning. It's nice to see the sun again this morning. I think we're in for a nice couple of days here. So just gratitude for this nice, beautiful spring that we're enjoying, the contrast of the bright blue sky set against the brightness of the spring green colors, the leaves, the shoots. I've been noticing that lately. So eyes closed, spine tall, breath long and smooth. Just a couple more here. Good, and then open up your eyes, and we'll begin with the wrists. So simply take your fingers together, weave them right down to the webbing. And like your wrists are in a roller coaster, just let them go up and down, up and down. And so this class, being that it's live right now, but it also goes into the YouTube library. So if there's a time where you want to use this class to open up and stretch out the things after you've been cycling or running, you can come back to it in time. So go the other way with the action of your wrists. Let the roller coaster go backwards. Good, and then just shake them out. Shaking out your wrists is actually something we actually do this quite a bit in a Vinyasa flow class when we're doing lots of chaturangas and downward facing dogs. So that's something to come back to whenever you need it. Okay, if you're propped up on something like me, just take it to the side and then bring your legs out in front of you, feet flat, knees bent. And then take your hands back behind you. So I'll turn to the side so you can see me. And this will depend on what your wrists feel like, but we're here to open up the chest. So your fingertips might be pointing away if that feels better for your wrists, or your fingertips might be pointing towards you. But whichever way feels best, push into your hands, root down, lift up. The spine feels nice and tall. Heart is lifted, neck is long, and the shoulders, the chest is opening. So through cycling, we find the rounding of the upper back. And when we're in that position for any length of time, it can feel really good to just open up the chest here. A few more breaths. We kind of find that turtle shell spine when we're on a bike, especially if you're on a road bike. One more big breath in. Good, and then release that. Again, let's shake out the wrists, kind of like little birdie wings. And then we'll do eagle arms, Garundasana arms from seated. So we're not going to do the eagle legs. Take right arm, swing it underneath the left arm. And then either hooking onto your thumbs or fingertips to the palms. Go ahead and lift the arm bones up. And at the same time, pull the arm bones away from your face. Keep your neck long, your chin tucked. A few slow, deep breaths in, followed by a few slow, deep breaths out. Keep lifting, releasing any of that tension from the upper back. the shoulders. Good, and then release your arms down. And then go ahead and give yourself a little self-hug here. Cross your arms to your opposite shoulders. And often when I teach this, I'll encourage you to pull things down. But instead today, I want you to lift your elbows up. So you try to get your elbows in the same height as your shoulders. Keep lifting. Keep softening. So when we're releasing tension from joints, whether it's shoulders or hips that we'll get into a little bit later on in class, see if you can notice the part of the body that you're releasing, where the tension is releasing from. And let that be, let that happen. But then find another part of the body that can soften. So it might be the space between the eyes, the jaw, or even just your attitude. Soften the attitude when we're releasing tension. Oftentimes we can bring more tension into other parts of the body when we're releasing. See if you can soften there. One more breath in. And then release the arms, all the air out. Okay, switch up the arms of your Garudasana eagle arms. Swing right arm underneath, or left arm underneath right arm, and then lift up. Keep pulling the arm bones away from your face. Fingertips rise with the inhale. And you're softening that tension on the exhale breath. A few more here. Big breath in. And all the air out. Last one, breath in. And out. Release the arms down. And then one more time, opposite cross of the hands to the shoulders, so the other arm is on top, whatever you did last time. And then just momentarily pull down so the neck gets nice and long. Keep that. Lift your elbows up. And then soften into the breath. Keep the spine nice and long as you breathe in. Everything relaxing as you breathe out. One more. Breath in. And out. Good. Release your arms down. And then we're going to come to the belly. And this is where if you have a block, you might grab it, or even better, a pillow. So we're going to take, let's take the right arm. Come onto the belly, lay flat. And let's actually start with the left arm. So take the left arm out just like the wing of a bird. And then have a block or a pillow handy somewhere right where your head would be, because you're going to lay your temple there in a minute. So use the fingertips of the right hand to push yourself over, and then relax your head, your temple, your ear on that cushion or block to get into the front of the left shoulder. Now I've dropped my right foot over top onto the opposite side of my leg. You might keep your legs stacked like this. You might even have this right foot in front, especially if this is really intense on your left shoulder. But if you want a little bit more, it's okay. You can stamp that right foot down on the other side. So again, find long, slow, deep inhales. And softening on the exhales. Good. Take one more breath in. And then we'll release on the breath out. And so we're just going to take the left arm. So come up onto your right hand, holding onto your head, and just swim this arm around. Let's release that tension. Go the other way. Good. And then you're going to take your right arm in that same style. Bring it out like a bird's wing, out towards the right side. And then fingertips of your left hand, you can tent them. Drop your foot on the other side if you like. There's even that variation where this free hand might even hook onto this leg, this ankle. If you like that version, you can take it. Stay connected to your right fingertips just to keep safe in that right shoulder joint. Sometimes we can move beyond our range of motion when there's weight. And right now we're weighted on this right shoulder. I just want to keep the shoulder joints safe, so stay alive in your right fingertips behind you as well. Stay for a couple more breaths here, just eking out any of that tension from the front of your right shoulder. If you're right hand dominant, this side might feel a little bit more intense. Good, and then let's roll back onto the belly. All the way over, left hand is going to support the head, and you're simply going to swim this arm around a couple times in both directions. Good. And then we'll come back up to sit. And we'll meet on all fours. So take your hands just underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and then flip the palms so that the fingertips are facing back towards your knees. Now this is a doozy, so be really careful with the intensity here. So the closer your knees are to your fingertips, the less intense this is going to be on the forearms and the wrists. The more you walk your knees back, woo-wee, the more intense this is going to feel. It's kind of a good intense though. It's one of those parts of the body that we might not consider opening up very often. The forearms, the wrists, the hands, but they do a lot for us. And when we're cycling, we're gripping, obviously, to hold on to the handlebars. And so the wrists can get sore and kind of congested and tight from that. You can rock a little bit front to back if that's okay. Good. Keep breathing here. One more breath in. And a breath out. Okay, walk your knees back, forward so you can release that tension. Just sit back, hips onto your heels, and shake out the wrists. Okay, let's come back onto the hands and the knees. This time we're going to take the fingertips out, so it looks like this. You're going to take the fingertips out, and you're simply going to go side to side, left and right. So as I mentioned at the very beginning of class, this class won't feel as much as a Vinyasa flow class as it is just working out different parts of the body that can get tight, tense, and congested from these activities that we're doing seasonally during this pretty beautiful spring that we're having. Okay, take your hands and place the backs of the hands down. Now this is a real doozy. And you can stay here. And if you want a little bit more, you can sink back onto the hips towards the heels. You don't have to go very far to feel the intensity of this. Good. Come back up. Again, sit hips back on the heels, shake out the hands. You can even roller coaster them again like we did at the beginning. Okay, one more here. Take the backs of the hands down to the floor again. And actually have fingertips facing towards your knees. Walk your knees in and then just gently take right knee onto right palm and then move it around a little bit. Massage your hand with your knee. Now if you want to do both at once, you can, or you can take this right knee back off the hand, set the left knee on. You might be able to do both together. Go both ways. Good. And then shake out the hands. Okay, this next one that we're going to do is again for the shoulders and the upper back. So you know the pose of Gomukhasana, the cow face pose? It's the one where it's kind of like the back scratching pose where the hand comes to the spine and then this hand, back of the hand, comes to create an opening in the shoulders here. We're going to do that from supine. We're going to do that from laying down, okay? So let's begin here. Come down onto your right elbow. And then take your right hand like you're trying to touch your spine, just like we would if we were seated in this pose. Now, just a little bit of a warning. This is fairly intense for your shoulders, so go really, really slow and just kind of gradually get yourself in to see if it feels okay before you find the full-blown shape. Okay, now this left hand is going to come on back of the hand to touch the spine, and we're going to roll over onto the back. So if this is too much for you, you could have your head elevated and a pillow underneath the head. Let's see if you can just hold this shape in the shoulders here for a few cycles of breath. If it's too much for that left hand to be reaching towards the right fingertips, it can come out. You can release it and just have it beside you. If you're able to take it up towards the right fingertips, a couple breaths here. Good. Let's roll back out. And then we'll do the second side. Lay down on the left elbow here, and then left fingertips are going to touch the spine. Right hand is going to reach around back behind you, and then lay onto the back. Gently, gently find your way here. Your head can either fall into the left forearm, or it might be supported with a block here. So opening up the chest. So when we do this pose seated, we're working to get the hands closer together to open up the shoulders. But this is kind of a nice version because we have the weightedness of the body laying on the hands to kind of do that work for us. Another breath in. And breath out. Good. Come back, roll all the way through. And then we'll meet in a downward facing dog. And we'll start now to get into the hips and the legs. So place your hands down, walk your feet back, hips up towards the sky, downward facing dog. Release any tension out of the back chain of the body, the calves, hamstrings, the glutes. Let your head be heavy. So we can have our head held in a consistent position when we're cycling. So just let your head be really heavy here. Chin more towards the chest, gaze back towards the feet. Feels really nice just to let the head decompress the spine. Couple more breaths like this. Good old faithful downward facing dog. Okay, let's step the right foot in towards the center and take the left leg up towards the sky. So come up onto your right tippy toes, lower down, right heel more towards the floor. Again, finding space in the back of the body, calf, hamstring. So your heel might have the ability to touch the floor, it might not. Both are fine. We're just opening up the back of the calf here. One more, come up onto the right tippy toes. And then let's hinge at the left knee, open up the left hip. Find space in that hip chamber there. Good. Close the hip, straighten the leg, look forward, step your left foot towards your hands, and then drop your right knee down towards the floor. Walk your left toes a little bit more forward. And then options for your arms here, you can have your hands on your knees like me, or you can have them on the hips or up towards the sky. I'm going to keep my hands on my knee here this morning. But keep walking left toes forward to the top edge of the mat to open up the front of your right hip. So a few times, let's come up and then sink forward. Lifting up. Lowering down. One more time, push up. And then let's stay here. So keep your feet strong, keep your legs connected like they're trying to come in towards the midline of the body, but at the same time finding that deep stretch in the front of your right hip flexor. Those hard working hip flexors. Good. Take another breath in. And on the exhale breath, plant your hands, and then we're going to step back to a downward facing dog, and we're going to take a vinyasa here. So we'll rinse that out. We'll move some energy around in the body here this morning. On the inhale breath, glide to the top of plank. On the exhale, lower chaturanga, or you can lower the whole belly to the floor. Inhale, lift for a back bend. Locust is a nice choice. Cobra or upward facing dog if the body feels ready and open. And then exhale out all the air, downward facing dog. I like the feeling of upward facing dog for stretching the abdominals, for doing that opposite effect of rounding the spine in that turtle shape in cycling. So it feels really good to stretch through the
front line of the body in an upward facing dog. Okay, on your next inhale breath, step your left foot to the center, reach your right leg up towards the sky. Rise up on your left toes, lower down on your left heel. Couple more like that. Finding space in the back line of your left leg. Okay, and then come up onto the left toes and then hinge right knee, turn open right hip. Downward facing dog with a twist. Let your head be heavy. Good, and then straighten your leg, close your hips, step right foot towards the hands. Drop your left knee. Walk your right toes more forward because we're trying to find more space in the front of that left hip crease, left hip flexor. And then come up with the upper body. Find your arms. So lots of different variations with the arms here. You could have them over the head, fingers interlaced together, something like that. Just find what feels best. So a few times we'll sink down and low, and then inhale, come up and high. Just a few more like that. Okay, next time you come down and low, we're going to stay there. Strong feet, strong legs. So we never want to just sink into the hips without the structure of the feet and the legs. We want to keep the feet strong, the legs scissoring in together. But we're still opening, lengthening, softening. So I notice that when I'm opening up my hips, that my shoulders will start to creep up by my ears. Lower the shoulders. Soften the jaw. Sweeten the breath. Just another breath in. And then exhale, we'll take a vinyasa. Step back to the top of a plank pose this time. Right foot goes back. Take a full breath in. Exhale, lower down, heart forward, hinge at the elbows. Take a back bend, up dog, cobra, locust. And then all the air out, downward facing dog. Okay, keeping with the hip opening here for the remainder of class. Left leg goes up towards the sky again. And then this time on the inhale, bring your knee towards your nose. And then step your left foot to the outside of your left hand. Keep your your right knee lifted. So you're on the back toes. Now, if you have lots of space in your hip, you might be able to come down to the elbows here. But if you're more like me, you want to stay up, you might support yourself with a cushion, a block, or something. Do be careful that your shoulders are staying soft, as I mentioned, and that we're releasing the hips and not adding new tension to the shoulders. Now start to creep your left toes to the edge of your mat. Keep your right leg lifted, just a few more breaths. We'll drop it in a moment. Okay, now take your right knee and drop it down towards the mat. And then left hand to the left thigh. Turn your chest towards the left. And if you want to hook your hand onto your foot, opening up your shoulder again. Take a full lengthening breath in. And see if you can relax deeply on the exhale, soften. Another one like that, inhale. Exhale, try to turn the heart around the corner. Good, bring your left hand back. Take the block to the side or the cushion. Take yourself back to the top of plank pose. Full breath in. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, stretch the whole front line of the body. Lengthen the neck, crown to the sky. All the air out, downward facing dog. Just bring the breath back online here. Reorganize the breath body with the hands and the feet. Downward facing dog. Couple more breaths. Good. And then step your left foot to the center of the mat. Inhale, pick up the right. And then take your right knee towards your nose, round through your spine. And then look forward, step right foot to the hand. Keep lifted in your left knee. You're on your left toes here. And then start to walk your right foot to the outer edge of the mat. A couple more breaths here. Okay, let's drop the left knee down to the floor, maybe taking support underneath the hands here. Might come down onto the forearms. So you might have more space on one side of the body than the other. Often we'll say do what you did on the first side on the second side. Unless you have more space, you might be able to move a little differently on this side. Okay, let's take the right hand to the right thigh. And then use both hands here, whether this left hand is on the floor or on a prop. Use both hands to root down to turn the spine. Try to stay tall out of this left shoulder. Try not to collapse down. Create space between the earlobe and the top of your shoulder. If you want to open up the chest a little bit more here, you'll hook onto this back foot. And then use that bind to open up the chest. Keep opening up your right hip. Might lift up the right toes so you're on the knife edge of the right foot. Good, and then come back forward. Set your block to the front if you're using it. Let's this time go back to a downward facing dog. Inhale, come to the top of the plank pose. We'll rinse that out with a vinyasa. Exhale, lower chaturanga, strong legs. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, go back, downward facing dog. Okay, let's meet seated. And we'll take a few more poses for the hips here. So we're going to do the doozy pose of double pigeon. So the pigeon pose that we typically do in a Vinyasa flow class usually is the half pigeon. But we're going to do the full double pigeon. So have something like a block, a cushion, or a blanket handy nearby. And have your right leg bone parallel with the short edge of the mat. So turn to this edge of the mat like I am. And then have your front shin parallel to the long edge of the mat, roughly. Okay, so keep that geometry. And then we're going to take the left ankle and set it on top of the right thigh. Now, you can see that I have this hole here. This is where you're going to pack it in with things. So a blanket, a cushion, a block in my case. Keep your feet fairly flexed just to help support the knees here. And then let the tension in the hips just be what it is. So let that be true. Let that be so. Take a tall spine, close down the eyes if you like. Soften through the parts of the body that might be absorbing this tension. Shoulders, jaw, space between the eyes, and the attitude. So if you're happy here, you'll stay right where you are. If you want a little bit more depth in this pose, a little bit more opening of the hips, walk your hands forward. We're going to keep a nice flat back rather than rounding, doming through the spine like we would on a bike. Keep a nice lifted heart, long neck. Walk your hands forward. Keep the breath. And the hips, I've heard it explained before that the hips are like people. You know, we like to be approached, most of us anyways, gently and with respect. And when we're approached that way, in a gentle way, that we can start to trust and open up a little bit more easily. And it doesn't happen all at once. It can take time. And that's why we stay in these hip opening poses often longer than other shapes, is because it takes time for the hips to respond. And so let's stay a few more breaths and see if we can notice a softening of the hips, where they start to respond to the gentle approach. Good. On the inhale breath, you can walk your hands back up if you had them forward.
And when you get to a tall spine, just take a moment to pause before we release the pose. Just pause here. Good. If you're using a prop like me, release it. And we're simply going to windshield wiper the hips and the legs side to side. Decompress both of your hips here. Left and right. And then we'll set that shape on the second side. So same thing here, left thigh bone parallel to the short edge of your mat. Shin bone parallel to the long edge. Ankle of your right foot, place it on top of your left thigh. And you could even hike yourself up, lift the hips up, and set the geometry of this pose. So you might have more space, less space. If you're like me, I have a little bit more space on this side, so I'm not going to use the block, but you do what you need to do. Stacking your shins. Sometimes this double pigeon pose is called fire log pose. It's like you're stacking wood. Okay, find a nice tall spine. If it helps to close down the eyes to bring that softening aspect to the pose, do so. So closing down the eyes, we don't become dull when we do that. We actually become more attuned and more focused to the sensations in the body. But if keeping your eyes open and having your drishti, your gaze, focused on one single point, that can be effective too. Now, if there's enough going on here, there's enough sensation, and the breath feels like it's matching the experience of the body, stay where you are. Otherwise, you can take the hands forward. We're going to keep a tall spine here. Like the heart is leading the way if you're going forward. Keep some activity in your feet. Soften through your shoulders. Back of the neck is long. Expression is soft. Stay for a breath in. Stay for the following breath out. Inhale, walk yourself back up if you're forward. Again, legs go wide, feet go wide. Decompress the hips side to side. You can find the chest opening at the same time here like we did at the beginning of class. Okay, let's return back to the Gomukhasana pose. So we did that from supine with the shoulders. We're going to leave out the arms this time and just do the Gomukhasana legs. So take your left leg over top of your right. And the idea here is we're trying to stack our knees one on top of the other. That may or may not happen. Sort of like that pigeon pose, there might be a gap in the pose. That's okay. So taking the feet as wide as you can apart. And then you nestle the hips down in between the legs here. And let's take the hands, let's tent the fingers beside us and just elevate and lift through the upper body, just to make sure that we're not gathering any tension in the shoulders. So again, eyes can be open, eyes can be closed, whatever suits your experience here. Just a couple more breaths here with the crown of the head pulling skyward before we change the shape in the upper body. Good. Okay, again, just like last time, just like we did in that double pigeon pose, option to crawl the hands forward. So now the front body is coming closer to the thigh bones, the legs. If this is too intense, if this brings up too much intensity in the hips, stay up where we began. But again, the spine is nice and long, the heart is projecting forward, crown of the head is going across the room. Deep breaths in. Releasing any tension on the deep breaths out. So sitting with sensation and not feeling like our hips need to be any more open than they already are. It's almost like we meet our inflexibility with compassion. Take another breath in. And let all the air come out your mouth. Walk yourself back up to a taller spine. Again, the windshield wiper to decompress the hips before we do the last side. And then let's take right leg over top of left leg. And organize your feet here. Organize the sitting bones. One knee over top of one knee, maybe. Might kind of be to the side depending on the space of the hips. Sit really tall. Ground yourself through your fingertips. Use your fingertips to find length in the spine. And as you're pressing and rooting down through the hands, soften through your shoulders. Lift the space of the heart. Good. Take another full and deep breath in. Option to stay right here, or on this exhale that's coming for us, you can come forward with a tall spine. Like there's a little string on the heart and it's lifted up towards the ceiling. We're staying, projecting, lifting up with the heart space. We'll round the spine in a few moments here, but for now we're trying to counteract that spine that we would find in cycling. Just a couple more breaths here. Good. At the bottom of your exhale breath, walk back up, tall spine. And we're going to take the legs wide into this straddle kind of a pose here. Anything that you want to have in front of you for support to bring the earth up to you, you're welcome to have. But take your legs as wide as comfortably possible. Lift yourself up and then have this slight tip of the pelvis forward. Keep your feet engaged. Keep your legs toned. Keep your spine nice and tall. So if you want to bring something into the center here, again, we're going to keep this nice tall spine. So we'll round at the very end of class, but for now we're going to keep this nice tall spine. Keep your legs active. Almost like you would take your thigh bones and you would roll them back to the back edges of the room. Take your hands forward as far as feels comfortable for the inner legs. Keep a nice tall spine, nice long neck, chin towards the chest, the throat. Feet are active, legs are toned, breath is long and smooth. A few breaths here at center. If you have the ability to go further, you might even be able to lay the whole heart down. Go for it. That pose always reminds me of one of our clients, Suzanne Peltier. She always does this pose so beautifully where she can lay her whole torso down on the floor. But I'm going to stay right here. Fill the lungs one more time in this shape. Empty the lungs one more time in this shape. And then use your hands to come back up to center. Let's find length through the waist, through the side body. Reach your arms over top of your head. And then turn to face your right extended leg. Let the hands fall on either side of your leg bone. Walk your hands forward. I always like to add a little bit of an extra twist in this pose by walking my left hand over top of my right leg and then turning a little to the right. But if it feels best for you just to stay right in this nice line here, go for that. Otherwise, come along for a little twist with me. Twist the belly region, twist the spine. And then come back to center. We'll inhale, reach the arms up, and then go right onto the left side. Turn to face your left extended leg. Hands fall on either side of your shin. Take a nice tall spine. Option to walk right hand over top of left leg. spin the belly. So keep having this action of the thigh bones rolling back. And we find that engagement from the feet and through keeping that little bit of tone through the legs. Last breath in. Last breath out. Okay, as promised, we'll come into a rounded spine. Take the soles of the feet together. Bottoms of the feet gather and collect. Reach your hands basket style over top of your toes. Pull the heart forward. And then sink the hips back round the spine. Tuck the chin. Drop your head. And then to close class, if you want to come a little deeper into this pose, if the hips have the space. If not, you're going to take something to support the head, something like blankets, 2, 3, 4 cushions, whatever you have and whatever you need. Otherwise, we're going to let the head drop, round the spine, and snuggle in. Softening through the hips. Allowing the head, the weight of the head, to decompress the spine. At the bottom of the exhale breath, rise back up. And then pause here. So as always, I'm teaching these classes about 35 or so minutes, 40 minutes maybe max. If you have time for more movement, your body's pretty open. The shoulders are open, the hips are open for any extra movements that you want to take this morning. Otherwise, you can relax and rest into Shavasana and stay as long as you can, as long as you have time for it in your day. But if you have to get going, maybe you're going on a bike ride, maybe you're getting outside to enjoy the day, let's close class together here. Bring the hands together to touch. Thumbs press into the sternum. Take a full breath in to lengthen your spine. And a full breath out. Let the breath exit the mouth. So thank you guys for showing up on your mats this morning, for continuing to dedicate your time and your practice to us here at Alchemy. We appreciate it, and we love that you guys are hanging around and supporting us. So thank you guys for tuning in. Namaste.